Welcome to my library, dear guest. My name is Cole, and I will be your storyteller. You know, I may still be busy with everything going on. This is also my first video in my new place, so hey. But I want to put the time we have to use. Today, I will make you suffer. 2 stories, no introductions. The only warning I will give is that these stories will be extremely not safe for work. Trigger warnings for rape, Nazis, and zoophiles. Now then, let us begin. Story number 1. DM gave us a sex virus and forced us to rape NPCs. By the author, Delicious Chair 2370. I want to apologize in advance for my poor English, as this is not my native language. So, I am a DM on a community Discord with about 13,000 members. You can offer to play campaigns there, and everyone who wants can participate and play. Usually it works very well, and most campaigns are really fun. It is important to say that everyone who wants to can offer a campaign to play. Now there was this one guy, let's call him Steve. There were some rumors about him not being a really good DM and some other things that I thought were just rumors. Since I'm relatively active in the server, I just wanted to see how such a campaign with the said DM is, and I signed up for a one-shot. We played in a Star Trek system I'd never heard of. The one-shot started relatively unexciting. No music, no VTT, and no really immersive descriptions. Our mission was to find a lost spaceship. This is where the horror begins. At first glance, this story may not sound too bad, but remember we were all strangers, and in addition, we played with a young girl. I don't know if she was already 18 or not. We opened a door in the lost spaceship, and the DM describes how we see a huge alien gangbang. We made some jokes to cover that, since this scene alone was really awkward. And after that, a naked alien woman chased us with the obvious intention of raping us, and we had to close the door in time. Next scene, the DM described how we all felt weird, and we need to make a saving throw. My thoughts just went, oh please no. He describes how some of us get really hungry and have to eat something right away. After that, he looks at the others and says, you feel horny and need to fuck someone immediately. Let's just call it the sex virus. The DM then goes on to describe how those with the sex virus run through the station and basically rape alien women. I obviously didn't roleplay this and have already switched off in my head. Now I had to do a saving throw every 10 minutes, which had a 20% chance to work in order to control my character. The DM describes in between how I am almost completely empty and almost can no longer move since my body hurts so much. The girl we played with was obviously very uncomfortable. The other players, including myself, also cringed really hard. I'll keep it short here. One player was able to find out the cause of the virus. It was rays of an asteroid. When we could move again, the DM described how I saw an unconscious naked woman under me with her eyes closed. I asked, can I check if she is still alive? He replied, she doesn't seem to be alive anymore. So basically, the DM forced me to rape an NPC to death. The girl told me afterwards that she felt really uncomfortable during this session, and thanked me for pointing it out to the DM. There was a huge discussion after the session, but I don't think that's relevant for this post. TLDR, DM gave us a sex virus and forced us to rape other NPCs to death. Edit. After the discussion, we talked with the server mods about the session, but I don't know what happened after that. I just saw that he cancelled all his planned sessions the next day. The girl told me afterwards that she felt really uncomfortable. Yeah, no shit! Sorry, I do not want to get angry, but literally nothing was done to prevent this or just end the session early. You made jokes to cover it up at first, but this was obviously not enough. With how it went on, somebody should have just said, no, stop that. And if he wouldn't have, leave the chat. I am sorry for everybody who had to go through this, especially that potentially underage girl. But really, call your DM out on things like this, because all of this, as he went on, was absolutely unacceptable, and it really only got worse. Now, to take a short break from this, let us just say there is little chance this video will stay monetized. So let us thank today's sponsor, Apotheosis. Apotheosis is a new TTRPG system which focuses on unlimited character customization, as well as immersive combat. Apotheosis differs from other TTRPGs such as D&D and Pathfinder. You choose a race and a background, but are not restricted to playing within the confines of a class and its abilities. Instead, your character grows as you play, and you can tailor them exactly to your liking by choosing abilities. Anything you can think of, you can create. There are no restrictions except your own imagination. The same goes for the actions you can take in combat. You can do more than swing a sword or cast a spell that will deal damage within a certain range. No. Everything around you, your enemy, your character, it all plays into the many strategies you can come up with in these dynamic, immersive battles. However, you must always weigh risk and reward, and through group effort and strategizing, mitigate the risk and maximize the reward. While you can use the momentum of a fall off a cliff to your advantage to increase your damage output, you will suffer fall damage. Or maybe one of your teammates can save you from that fate, with one of the 100 spells this game has to offer. Or perhaps you would rather use one of the many weapons you can choose from, all of which function differently so you can find one that suits your particular playstyle. With weapons like scythes, you can make the ultimate edgelord, or live out your weeaboo dreams by throwing shuriken at your enemies. Whatever you wish to do is completely up to you, as long as you make sure to not appear in any of the stories here. Furthermore, Apotheosis offers new races for you to play that are exclusive to this game. The Antherian, humanoids with animal-like characteristics, the Bijo, Fey-like creatures that are regarded as blessings from the gods by some, Demor, souls that are trapped between the world of the living and the dead, and, of course, the parasitic neurocytes. If this system and all that it has to offer has sparked your curiosity, if you wish to experience this level of character customization and the intense battles it has to offer yourself, well, you're in luck. In the description, you will find a link to purchase the PDF or hardcover version of Apotheosis yourself. The PDF version goes for as little as $15, so what are you waiting for? Take your TTRPG experience to the next level. Thank you, Apotheosis, for sponsoring this video. And now, let's move on to story number 2. Story number 2. GM accepts Nazi players and sex abusers. By the author, Call Me Phelps. Okay, first of all, this story is being written by 3 people, which are the accounts of players who went through hell in this campaign. This story reports an extremely abusive GM who doesn't know how to balance his monsters, punishes players for role-playing, and on top of that, He accepts any kind of weird thing in his games. This is our first post on Reddit overall, and on top of that, we are not native English speakers. So this whole story will be translated via Google Translate. Maybe some errors can be found. To understand this story, it is important to know some key figures. GM. Weird guy who has a kind of deity archetype. OP. Me, one of the victims of this shit. Carlos. One of my friends who is helping me write this story. Sa. An extremely troublesome figure who will cause problems in the future. Okay, hold on. While the character's name is written differently, K-O-U instead of K-O-O-H, I will still call them a different name since it just sounds too similar to my own. Let's just go with K. K. A mentally unstable player who is a Nazi and has sexual tendencies towards animals. There are more figures involved in this, but they're all victims. I have to make it clear that this is the first RPG I played. I had never had contact with this kind of thing before. Well, the story starts about a year ago. I went looking for an RPG group on a local virtual server, and there it was. Seeking fun, I found my hell. The campaign proposal was quite intriguing, even if it was formulated with basically a copy-paste of the SCP universe, passing in a containment break. I created a guard, a character with a generic past. I lost my family to anomalies, and I want to kill them all type of character. Starting the campaign, everything was fine in a certain way. After a few unimportant events, my character met up with the rest of the group. 3 scientists. Carlos, a Russian psychologist with mental imbalance. Sa, a biologist who doesn't know medicine. And an anomaly scientist who was literally oil. He doesn't even play, so whatever. Things were going relatively well. We were engaging in conversations and our characters were getting to know each other. It's good to make it clear that, at that moment, the organization we worked was going through a crisis. Dozens of anomalies and monsters were walking around, so the group had a major objective to escape from that place. As time went by working with the group, the first strange things started to happen. Sa began to act strangely towards my character and towards me in the middle of the game. He was acting sexually. There were constant uncomfortable scenes he created, whether praising something specific about my character with a smirk on his face, or emphasizing a stalking action he made for me. Even though I made it verbally explicit that I was uncomfortable with this sort of thing, the player and GM didn't give it much thought. For the player, it was just a love interest for his character, and for the GM, it was something funny. As time passed, we ran into the most problematic figure of it all. K, a character who literally came from Nazi Germany. Yes, his character was literally a Nazi. And yes, he used the "this is what my character would do" excuse to be a racist asshole. I honestly was in disbelief that the GM would accept this kind of thing. The first thing he did with his character was curse Carlos, a black Russian. Simplified, he said, "How can a Russian be black? They're offspring of slavery." Oh my gods, please, this hurts to read. The things I do for you. Moving forward, the first sign of the GM's crooked balance came to light with a monster that was capable of doing about 50 damage in a turn. We had 20 HP overall. In combat, Carlos heroically killed himself to kill both monsters, giving us a tragic victory. He died in the second session. Carlos later returned with a gorgeous character, the brother of his initial character, and his greatest masterpiece so far. His character was now a warrior, a sniper tank. Simply incredible. In the same room where the clash against the unbalanced monster took place, the GM threw another creature in our face. Some sort of flesh creature, a red globule that bites. And I swear to all that's holy, we did about 600 damage on it, and it didn't die. Somehow that shit was still alive, probably a plot armor. Things start to go wrong after a long campaign period, about 10 sessions, where Sa started acting much more aggressively than usual towards me. What was previously portrayed as a joke to him and the rest of the table, he started to take serious, and it was getting really uncomfortable. There was a time he almost forced me to have sex with him, but luckily I managed to stop that. His character tried to make out with mine and seduce him in a completely shameful way. There was also the time he literally forced me to kiss him in a game of truth or dare, and the GM accepted that. After I threatened my exit from the campaign if that sort of thing continued, luckily it stopped. But remember, I had to take this initiative. The GM always accepted this kind of thing silently, or he laughed at the situation. Sexual abuse is not a joke. If it hadn't stopped, I fear what kind of thing it would have done to my character and me. The story wasn't making much progress at the time. The GM didn't have anything written down, and most of his DGs were improvs and hallways. He lost track of his own campaign so much that he's had to give a monster a power that they don't have. He took something that would be to our benefit. The GM didn't reward our creative ideas, things that made sense within the game and that could trigger a nice plot for character development. Usually, when that happened, he would either ignore or throw an encounter in our face. Zoo and pedo alert. Before we got to the final part of the campaign, the final route of our first tragic adventure, we had one of the most absurd and strange conversations of my entire life. Kay, in the midst of pre-session, was laughing and glamorizing a video of a guy fucking an animal corpse, insisting on sending this shit video to us. The GM accepted the video and laughed at it. Me and the rest of the players were disgusted by this shit video and demanded the GM to ban him from the server where the campaign took place, immediately. And he did nothing. Kay, as a form of revenge for our attempt to turn the server into a healthy place, sent me dozens of videos and websites that involve pedophilia and zoophilia. I block him before he can send me more shit like that. Before Kay stopped playing, he literally narrated to the GM how he masturbated to a beastly flesh deity. I think he was masturbating to a gibbering mouther. Disgusting. After the situation, he stopped playing and left the table. Yes, he left on his own. The GM never did anything against him. Now, in the final round of the campaign with only 3 players, we came across what should be our rpghorrorstories, a fake copy of the Adventure Time Lich, which in this universe was an ancient entity that represented death and decay itself. That part was really cool. It was fun to see the GM's narration and the fear that we felt at this moment. He really had created something powerful that pierced fear. But it won't last forever. Sa died to some servants of this lich, and he stopped playing soon after. So the campaign revolved around 2 fighters, me and Carlos. We managed to beat all the shit that came our way. We were an unstoppable fighting machine. The campaign ended with us being kidnapped by a group of occultists who controlled an immortal being that killed us with 1 hit. Some way we stayed alive, and we continued playing. This was the end of part 1. The part that was more fun and chaotic than all the others. The part that nevertheless got me into the world of RPGs. TLDR. Nazi player and Zufal throws a tantrum and demonstrates their weird fetishes to everyone around them. Player has sexually harassed me for weeks, and the GM has never done anything to stop this sort of thing. The story doesn't end here. This is just the first campaign that we played with him. If this story has some kind of recognition, I will write the rest of it. Yeah, I'm not even going to touch that. I believe no commentary would really do this justice. I have many thoughts, but I figure you can tell what they are, so we will simply end it there. Except, let me go off script for just a moment. I am thinking and hoping that this entire story is fake. I usually do not trust the stories I found to always be 100% real. It's why I always put that disclaimer in my video description as well. A few things here really don't add up. Of course, you can blame that on the language barrier, but I don't know. I'm really hoping that whoever wrote this just came up with it for shock factor, because I just cannot see how you would even play with those people again afterwards. Apart from the things that, as I said, don't add up, but my god. That was it for today's stories. I promise, next week we will go back to more lighthearted things. Nonetheless, I hope you enjoyed your stay and that I will see you again soon. For there are always more stories to be shared.